Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. Thanks for your support on Patreon. Kratos' forgotten son, Chris Petro. Ex-WWE and Impact stars debut in AEW. We've got our first ever AEW World Champion. And the Young Bucks and Lucha Bros just completed ladder matches. That's it, they're done. There's nothing more to do. Oh, okay, you're doing a Canadian Destroyer off the top rope through a table. Brilliant. I'm Ollie Davis. Press the thumbs up button, give us a subscribe, and answer our question of the day in the comments down below. Who should now feud with Chris Jericho for the AEW title? Because I'll be replying to people from out of nowhere. Say it, CM Punk. Also, vote in the poll above my head to give your rating for the show, where you can choose from Best of Both Worlds, Great Per View, Thumbs in the Middle, Meh Per View, and Worst of Both Worlds, while Luke and I review AEW All Out.
The opening match of the buy-in pre-show was the needlessly convoluted Casino Battle Royal, where wrestlers enter in groups of 5 depending on the card they drew. Not only is it a silly addition to a simple format, not unlike Vince Russo creating the reverse Battle Royal, where the aim of the match is to have a Battle Royal to get into the ring, only to then have a Battle Royal to throw people out again, but it also means that the debuts and surprises like former WWE star Emma, now Tennille Dashwood, and former Impact stars like ODB didn't get the pop they would in a Royal Rumble style format. Mae Young Classic and NXT star Mercedes Martinez was the match's wildcard, and she had a good showing before being thrown out. The match came down to Bea Priestley, Britt Baker, and Nyla Rose, with Priestley effectively helping Rose score the win by holding onto Baker's arm. And now Rose will go on to fight for the AEW Women's Championship on the inaugural episode of All Elite Wrestling's TV show on October 2nd. We then got Private Party taking on Angelico and Jack Evans, which featured more flips than a pancake factory. Each team brought something new to the table that wowed the faithful crowd in Chicago, including Mark Quinn hitting a coast-to-coast hot tag to Isaiah Cassidy. Both teams got their moments to shine, and Private Party picked up the win when Cassidy Hurricane Rana'd Angelico off the top rope into a Mark Quinn cutter. Yeah, it's as bonkers as it sounded. Angelico and Evans turned heel after the match, presumably setting up a future feud between the two teams.
The main card opened with the solid veteran act SCU taking on the exciting and awesomely named rookies Jurassic Express, made up of Marco Stunt, Jungle Boy, and everyone's new favorite friendly green giant T-Rex, Luchasaurus. Stunt is more of a comedy figure, but AEW really have something with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, the latter of whom got over massively with the crowd with his great look. Did I mention he's a friendly green giant T-Rex wearing a lucha mask? Wait a second, is that you, CM Punk? And awesome power moves. A more experienced SCU went over, but the Jungle Express looked amazing in defeat. As Jon Moxley had to literally become all out just the week before the show with an MRSA infection, the night's Kenny Omega match didn't have as much build with last-minute replacement Pac, and therefore surprisingly went on second in the night. With Omega being the storytelling genius he is though, that context was woven seamlessly into the fabric of the match, with him still being obsessed with fighting Mox, even when he should have been focused on Pac, a mistake that ultimately led to his second singles defeat in AEW, giving him a 2-1 record. Another wrinkle that can fuel his Moxley feud, while making Pac look incredibly strong in victory, implying he will be doing more dates with the promotion, particularly because he challenged Hangman Page in the All Out post-show. But even though the match was absolutely terrific, it was somehow only the joint third best on the show.
Up next, we got the Battle of the Goths and Joey Janela, as Jimmy Havoc took on Darby Allin and Joey Janela in the Cracker Barrel Clash. The match started with Allin and Janela taping Havoc to a chair and then duct taping thumbtacks into his mouth, and it only got crazier from there. It featured the greatest hits of hardcore matches in 2019, paper cuts, staple guns, and a flip dive powerbomb from the apron to the floor and through a table, but also featured some new spots, like Darby Allin landing his skateboard covered in tacks onto the back of Janela, and Allin crashing through the Cracker Barrel he tried to use as a weapon on Jimmy Havoc. And Havoc picked up the win by hitting the Acid Rainmaker on Janela through another Cracker Barrel. I had a ball with this match, and I thought it made all three look like absolute stars coming out of it. And let's not forget, that Cracker Barrel was used as a weapon not once, but twice. If this doesn't get 5 stars in the Wrestling Observer, then Dave Meltzer has lost his damn mind. What likely won't get many stars, however, was Dark Order taking on Best Friends, with the winners earning a bye in the first round in the tournament to crown the first AEW Tag Team Champions. Despite Super Smash Bros. Being a great team, this Dark Order act just isn't connecting with fans, and that's hurting their matches. They've been heavily pushed since debuting at Double or Nothing, but came out to relevant silence at All Out, which sadly carried into the match. Dark Order's crawlers interfered, and the baddies won with their double team move. This was the low point of All Out, a show which had been sublime up until this point. But then, the segment was saved by freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. A man so effortlessly cool, charismatic, and engaging, the crowd totally woke up and treated him like the second coming of Rock the Dwayne Johnson. Cassidy did a dive onto the creepers with his hands still in his pockets and was hugged by the Best Friends in the ring.
There seems to be 2 divisions within AEW's female roster: the Brandy Rhodes contingent of Western wrestlers and Kenny Omega's Joshi Fantastic. Shida versus Rio was very much in the second, with Rio being a big Omega favorite, scheduled to team with him in his DDT return match this November. Unfortunately, this match suffered slightly from the lull following the Dark Order tag, but both women did their best to get the crowd back into it with all the running knees. Rio won to face Nyla Rose to become the inaugural AEW Women's Champion on their first episode of TV. For the third AEW pay-per-view out of 4, with these matches against Dustin Rhodes and Darby Allin, Cody again stole the show with the best match of the night. An 80s blend of blood feud psychology and manager interference booking. Cody and Shawn Spears brawled intensely around the ring from the get-go, with their seconds in MJF and Tully Blanchard adding an extra layer of conflict at ringside, which allowed MJF to get increasingly angrier as Tully and Shawn cheated with belt whips, leverage helping, and uppercuts to the nuts. In a brilliant cameo though, Tully's brainbuster teammate Arn Anderson came down to hit a double-A spinebuster on Spears, which eventually led to Cody winning. My only issue with all this was Cody's entrance, a Star Trek homage involving Brandy, MJF, DDP, and family dog Pharaoh cosplaying as members of the Starship Enterprise, which I'm all for. I love Lord of the Rings, but it doesn't exactly scream blood feud, and your dog walking calmly down to the ring in front of over 10,000 people and after some very loud pyro just fired was never gonna happen.
And then came the craziest ladder match I've ever seen in my life between the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks for the AAA tag titles. A match that featured a Canadian Destroyer off the top rope through a table, and that was just one of the big spots. The basic gist of this match was the 4 of them decided to go out there and do crazy stunts for half an hour, and when all those stunts were done, they just do some more crazy stunts. The match actually took me back to the glory TLC days of 2000 and 2001 between Edge and Christian, the Hardys, and the Dudley Boys. But it also went slightly too long and featured one too many dangerous spots for my liking, including Nick Jackson clipping his feet on the ropes as he crashed off the ladder to the floor and through 2 tables. But unlike Bubba Ray Dudley and Matt Hardy doing that same spot nearly 20 years ago and making it look as safe as possible, Nick hit the ropes and was flung very hard into the floor in what looked like the most dangerous way possible. Look, I loved this match and will talk about it with the same reverence I do for those original TLC matches, but I can't say I enjoyed every moment as I watched a lot of it behind my hands. After Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix committed more murder on the Bucks by doing an assisted package piledriver onto a ladder bridge, they finally pulled down the AAA tag belt. But their celebration was short-lived as 2 men in President Masks attacked the Lucha Brothers and the Bucks. Could it be 2 CM Punks? Revealing themselves instead to be the former LAX of Impact Wrestling, one of the best tag teams on the planet. With those 3 teams, Best Friends, Private Party, Angelico and Jack Evans, SCU, Jungle Express, and yes, even Dark Order, AEW might have the most stacked tag roster in North America. AEW also announced they'd be returning to pay-per-view on November 9th for a show called Full Gear. So I see they finally found my Full House Metal Gear Solid crossover fanfic.
and the main event was rightly to crown the first ever AEW World Champion. A shame then that it never really felt like a main event to finish this excellent show, as it had to directly follow one of the best ladder matches I've ever seen, and nobody ever really bought into Hangman Page as being on this level, even though he rode a horse down to the ring. Thank God they didn't have pyro for that entrance. Sadly, the horse didn't stay at ringside to be Page's manager, which meant that Jericho could eventually hit his still not that great looking Judas elbow for the win. The match was good, with an excellent Page shooting star off the apron into a Jericho code breaker on the outside, and Jericho blading to mirror Hangman's own injury during the build. But this was not New Japan Jericho, the wild anarchic Y2J that beats up officials and hits people with weapons. He didn't even goad Page's family, who kept being shown at ringside, and the match never had the intensity found elsewhere on the card because of it. Overall, however, this was a tremendously enjoyable show, with 4 absolutely incredible matches: Omega versus Pac, Havoc versus Janela versus Allen, the Bucks versus Luchas, and the best of the night, the superb Cody versus Shawn. There was no CM Punk in sight, but that's not AEW's fault that we all got whipped up in a CM Punk confirmed frenzy, and even though the entire event was too long, with the total duration at 5 hours including the pre-show, Luke and I are still awarding it the highest possible score: Best of both worlds. Which major NXT stars are returning soon ahead of the brand going live on the USA Network? Click the video on the right now to find out, and make sure to give us a subscribe and enable notifications as we're debuting our new series, WrestleTalk Showcase, tomorrow. I've been Ollie Davis, and that was wrestling.